South Africa, a land of breathtaking beauty, isn't it? Majestic mountains, fertile valleys, and vineyards stretch as far as the eye can see. This is the postcard image, the one that draws tourists and fills Instagram feeds. But beneath this stunning veneer, a different story unfolds, especially in its sprawling rural heartlands. The farms. These are not just plots of land, they are legacies, livelihoods. For generations, families have tilled this soil, their histories intertwined with the earth itself. Yet this connection is increasingly fraught with peril. A silence has fallen over many of these farms, but it's not a peaceful silence. It's the silence of apprehension. Farmers and their families now live behind high fences, intricate alarm systems, and for some, with weapons close at hand. Children who once roamed free now understand the meaning of security briefings. This isn't just about protecting property anymore. It's about protecting lives. The very idea of a peaceful rural existence is crumbling under the weight of constant threat. The stories filter out from these isolated homesteads, tales of brutality, of loss, of communities gripped by a siege mentality. They speak of a silent war, a term loaded with pain and controversy. Is it truly a war, or is it a tragic symptom of a country grappling with a complex post-apartheid reality where crime has become a pervasive shadow? To understand the present, you have to dig into the past. Apartheid. The word itself feels like a scar. From 1948, this system wasn't just about separate benches and water fountains, it was about systematically dispossessing the black majority of their land, their rights, their dignity. The Natives Land Act of 1913 was a brutal starting point, but apartheid perfected the art of division. Imagine the vast majority of the population confined to a tiny fraction of the land, while a white minority controlled enormous swaths, including around 72% of the farmland. This historical injustice didn't just vanish in 1994 with the dawn of democracy. The Rainbow Nation was born, full of hope and promise, but it inherited a deeply fractured society. Land ownership remained, and largely still remains, a stark reminder of that skewed past. The calls for land reform, for a more equitable distribution, grew louder. The legacy of apartheid casts a long, dark shadow, and understanding its reach is crucial to understanding the tensions that grip rural South Africa today. Now let's talk numbers, because in any crisis, people reach for numbers. They want data, they want clarity. But in the case of South African farm attacks, the statistics themselves can feel like a battleground. You hear figures thrown around. Over 3,000 farmers killed since 1994. But then you look at the broader crime statistics in South Africa, and the picture gets even more grim. Between October and December 2024, there were 6,953 murders in the country. That's roughly 72 people murdered every single day. Of those, 12 were classified as farm murders in that quarter. For the entire 2023 to 2024 financial year, 49 farm murders were recorded. This represented 0.2% of the staggering 27,621 national murders. Farm attacks, which include crimes beyond murder like robbery, accounted for 0.7% of national robberies involving aggravating circumstances. The numbers tell a story of tragedy, yes, but also one of a nation grappling with systemic violence that touches all its people. It's a web of data points that can be interpreted in various ways, often fueling the already polarized debate rather than providing simple answers. Section 4. A global stage, a local tragedy, when worlds collide. This deeply South African issue hasn't stayed within its borders. Oh no, it's gone international. And when complex local problems hit the global stage, they often get simplified. Remember May 2025? Then, US President Trump met with South African President Ramaphosa. Trump reportedly confronted Ramaphosa with a video claiming white genocide was happening in South Africa. It featured images of white crosses presented as a mass funeral for white farm attack victims. But here's the kicker. Those white crosses? They were largely from a 2020 protest. An agricultural protest, by the way, that included black farmers and was about broader farming issues. President Ramaphosa, to his credit, remained calm. He stated that chants in the video, reportedly "shoot the boar," did not represent government policy. This wasn't the first time Trump had waded in. Earlier in January 2025, he'd issued an executive order allowing 59 Afrikaners to enter the US as refugees, citing persecution. The term white genocide itself is incredibly loaded. South African judges and officials have repeatedly dismissed claims of a white genocide in the country. The primary motive for these horrific attacks, according to most official investigations, is robbery. This international spotlight, fueled by misinformation and political agendas, doesn't really help the people on the ground. Section 5. The unspoken question, genocide, crime, or something else. So what is really happening on these farms? Is it a targeted campaign, a slow genocide aimed at white farmers, or is it a horrific manifestation of South Africa's appallingly high crime rate, where farmers are vulnerable targets due to their isolation and perceived wealth? This is the heart of the debate. It's a divide that often runs along racial and political lines filled with pain, history, and deeply entrenched fears. Those who believe it's more than just crime point to the sheer brutality of some attacks. They argue the violence often seems gratuitous, exceeding what would be necessary for a robbery. They highlight inflammatory rhetoric like the controversial song Dubul Ibhunu, Shoot the Boer Farmer. They see a pattern, a deliberate effort to drive them off the land, fueled by racial animosity. For them, the statistics, however interpreted, don't capture the terror or the perceived intent. On the other side, many argue that focusing solely on white farmers ignores the broader context. Farm workers, who are predominantly black, are also victims of violence in rural areas. The national murder rate is astronomical, affecting all communities. International law defines genocide very specifically: acts intended to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. No legal actions have successfully classified South African farm murders as genocide. Is it an organized, racially motivated extermination, or is it the tragic consequence of a society where life can be terrifyingly cheap, and remote farms offer tempting targets for ruthless criminals? Section 6. Fractured Futures, the Price of Unrest. The ongoing violence in South Africa's agricultural heartland, whatever its primary driver, exacts a terrible toll. It's a toll measured not just in lives lost or injuries sustained, but in the very fabric of rural society and the nation's economic well-being. Agriculture is a significant sector, a $12 billion industry. It provides food security and creates jobs, not just for the farm owners, but for thousands of farm workers and their families. When farms become fortresses, when experienced farmers consider leaving the land or the country, the ripple effects are immense. Food production can suffer, livelihoods vanish. The fear doesn't just impact white farmers, it impacts everyone in these rural communities. Black farm workers live with the same anxieties, often with even fewer resources for protection. The violence disrupts local economies, discourages investment, and deepens existing social divisions. Community policing forums and private security initiatives have sprung up, a testament to both resilience and a lack of faith in state protection. But these measures can also create a society of enclaves, further fragmenting communities rather than uniting them against a common threat of criminality. The National Rural Safety Strategy acknowledges these vulnerabilities, but implementation remains a massive challenge. The debate itself, polarized and often toxic, has consequences. South Africa, with its 32.9% unemployment rate, desperately needs stability and growth, not further division and fear. The question that lingers heavy and urgent is this: can South Africa find a path towards healing and safety, or will these fractures continue to deepen, threatening the very promise of its hard-won democracy?